Welcome to the Haven Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders, owners, and professionals are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Hear from industry experts on everything from marketing, leadership, financing, and more. Brought to you by Haven, a co-working space where you can connect, create, and get stuff done.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Haven Hubcast. I'm your host, Nancy Sheed, and I am really excited to be sitting today with Mary O'Connell. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Nancy. It's great to be with you this afternoon.
Mary and I are going to be chatting about life in transition and going from sort of corporate to what's next. So, as opposed to leading with a title or a description or anything, Mary, I just want to sort of jump in and give the big picture of 25 years in big corporations and different functions and teams, and just sort of tackling it, moving up the corporate ladder to, wait a second, I might want to do something else, or maybe this isn't for me anymore. And sort of walking through that journey with you so people who are also either considering it, who have done it, can kind of hear more about your journey. So walk us through the decision to sort of go straight into work in corporate America, and what was that look like, and what did you want to be when you grew up then?
Well, I'll go back to when I first graduated college. My first job out of college was consulting. And it was great because I met a lot of wonderful friends that are lifelong friends. And I got to visit different client environments. But it was pre Y2K, and the job was very technical and probably more technical than I appreciated when I first took it. So there we were working very long hours, reprogramming computers so that they didn't implode when the millennium turned to the next millennium. And I sort of thought to myself, you know what? I had so many interests when I was an undergraduate. I had taught in Lithuania and Poland. I had studied abroad for a year in Spain. I was very active in Latin America affairs when I was in school. And so after doing that for a couple of years, I said, you know what? I am going to redirect my life and I am going to go back to graduate school. So I went to graduate school at Columbia University. I went into their School of International and Public Affairs with the intent of doing something like the UN, maybe Foreign Service. I had looked at all the schools, Georgetown School of Foreign Service, SAIS at Johns Hopkins. Columbia worked with my current, back then, personal situation. And so I went back to Columbia, and I think a good learning is if you're still trying to figure it out before you go into grad school, sometimes grad school doesn't help you figure it out. It puts more ideas into your brain. So there we were between my first and my second year. And I thought, I have to get a job. I have to pay for tuitions, both my undergraduate and my graduate. And I threw in a bunch of applications at places, but one of them happened to be at the corporation I just left. So this was the summer of 1999, and I was a summer intern. And I took the job, really, it was out of financial need. I was sort of fighting the tug to go to corporate. But really, it opened my eyes to the fact that corporations have their own cultures. Corporations have different models in terms of meritocracy or not. And the company I worked for was just amazing. And I would say what kept me there over the years was the evolving opportunities. So again, I thought I was going to finish up at Columbia and I'd go into international work, either governmental or organizational. I sort of convinced myself I'll still do international work. I'll just work for a for-profit company. And so then I felt good about that.
Exactly.
And I can tell you, as I reflect on my 25 years, that is what happened. I had teams in India. I had teams in the Philippines. I had teams in Mexico City, Guadalajara, all across the US. It has been a very fulfilling run in terms of the people I've worked with, skills, but also cultures. And also I've been challenged myself. At one point in my career, it's like every handful of years, you you move, and sometimes you move to a drastically different function.
Mm.
And it's great because, you sort of begin to exercise different muscles, or you realize you have skills you didn't know you had.
Mm. Or skills that are applicable in a different situation, right?
Absolutely. Like one of my biggest sort of, I think, learnings was when I went from a sort of analytical and technical job to running frontline customer service.
Mm.
And we all have a vision of customer service, either good or bad, based on our own personal experiences. And so I approached the job myself thinking about all the best experiences I had and how do we recreate that. And it's a tough job because it runs
Mm.
24/7 and there's always escalations and issues and things like that. So, you come across assignments like that in your career and they're formative moments. And I think what I enjoy most when I sort of make those shifts is the initial storming mode where you have to understand the boundaries of your responsibilities. You have to understand what's working well. You have to understand what needs to be adjusted or fixed and really connecting with your team. So I think listening becomes a really important skill and sort of building your credibility over time with your team.
Mm.
So that's like my professional arc. All the while, I got married, I had 3 kids. And then I got to a point where I crossed the 25-year mark, which is a major milestone actually at my
Mm.
company. It's actually a beautiful milestone because they invite everybody back each and every year who is a 25-year or greater
Wow.
tenured a colleague. So I went this past October and saw the people I had just left a few months before, but I'll go back this October. And, it's nice to reconnect with folks.
That speaks to the culture of that company.
Oh my
That
gosh,
really
amazing.
speaks to the culture of that company. I mean, I was making a note and sorry, I slightly cut you off, but
All good.
mentioning skills, melting culture, evolving opportunities, that doesn't happen in every company. Do you know what I
It
mean?
doesn't.
That it doesn't happen in every company. And there's a reason why people don't stay for 25 years. So it says a lot to me that you seemed challenged and thriving and excited or moving on and growing in those 25 years versus I was stuck and I just couldn't, you couldn't get out. Like, not a lot of people can tell that corporate story.
And what I would say is like, so I did leave right after 25 years. And I think also like you have to recognize all the while you're working through your career, your life is also evolving, right? So I mentioned I have 3 sons. And when the first one went off to school, I sort of realized how quickly everything was going. And sort of just other things you work through in life, you just realize, like, if there's certain things that I want to do, is now the time to do them.
Mm.
So I really left because I was seeking to sort of like grow again, to have a major inflection in my life where there was a lot of renewed energy and I could channel it towards something. And so that's where I am right now. And I am up to stuff, but I'll wait till you ask me about that.
Watch this space. Well, I want to say, like, I feel like you were also, thank you for sharing I think some very pragmatic leadership lessons and management lessons that a lot of people, again, don't necessarily get or witness. And in that 25 years, you joke about Y2K. You went from Y2K in that company to AI, right? And everything in between. So to have stayed engaged, I think that says a lot again to wherever you were, the type of person you were, the culture and everything else. And in this day and age, that sounds like a
Thanks,
rarity
Nancy. Thanks.
in this day and age. So the sort of pivot point comes both between, I guess it sounds like the 25 mark being significant and other life things going on. Was there literally a moment? Was there a list of questions that you were sort of asking yourselves? Did you read Eat, Pray, Love? No, just kidding. You know, was there a certain book you read? Like, at what point were you like, I'm thinking about it or I'm doing it? What did that journey look like for you?
And I think there's a few things. I think a lot of us are part of a sandwich generation. And I know it's
Mm,
a term that comes up at Haven quite often based on some programming that you have. So I obviously have my family, but then I still have, fortunately, my parents alive. They're octogenarians. And my mom has had bad health over the last year and a half or so. And I can remember being at my desk and saying to myself, more precious time should be spent with her.
mm,
And I use her as an adjective. You could say the same about my children. You could say the same about more precious time should be invested in myself,
mm,
taking care of myself, taking care of my kids, taking care of my mother. There was no one singular thing, but I think it was a recognition of the people around me and limited time and for different reasons, right on both ends of the of the spectrum. And just the other day, I was looking at my calendar and I had a few hours in the afternoon and I said, you know what? One of the reasons I told myself that I was going to walk away is because I was going to give her more of my time. And so I went and I had lunch with her and my father, packed up a whole bunch of prepared foods and spent the afternoon with them. And my mom's not one to give out compliments very freely. And she's a tough one.
we won't let her listen to
And
this. That's okay.
she was at the end of the afternoon, she was like, thank you so much. This was wonderful. And to
Mm,
me, I was like, these are the kind of things that I will never get back. So I call it transition. It's not a forever thing.
mm,
But right now, at this point in time, and you can even see it on my LinkedIn posting, I went silent on all my work friends for about 6 months. And then I thought, you know what? I need to tell people what I'm doing. And I
right.
really, truly meant what I posted, which was that everyone always gets consumed with asking you what you're up to. And you could fill your day with all sorts of trivial things. But my response is usually, it's who am I doing things for?
Mm,
And whether it's for my kids or my mother, it used to be we all ran out of the house at 7 a.m. and everybody grabbed a muffin and I would see them at 8 o'clock at night. Now I know a bunch of Haven women know this that I walk with on Tuesdays that I wake
mm,
up at 6:20 every day and I make my kids a hot breakfast because to see them go out the door with a smile and to witness something I was not able to witness literally for decades has been very rewarding to me. So
mm.
it's really about giving to those folks that are important to my life and then also myself, just reclaiming better healthy habits after just really grinding myself out for 25 years.
Mm. You said earlier, you're like, when I was professional, and you mentioned being in transition. I'm just picking up on some of the words that you're using. You're always going to be professional. You just might not be putting a
Thanks,
suit,
Nancy.
right? You might just not be putting on a suit. And I love that you said it's a transition and it's a time. But I also think that time for you getting to reflect on, okay, what am I really good at? What's going to be important to me, as well as I think in this day and age post COVID, does it have to be an all or nothing, right?
Yeah.
Like finding that balance of being able to make the time for those in your life and at the same time finding something fulfilling for you that doesn't just have to be self-care and massages, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh, gosh.
not that
There
there's
was
anything
one,
wrong with those.
there is another grouping that I would add besides the folks that are important in my life that I mentioned. I realized coming out of my corporate role that I still had very sharp skills. Like I was still on my game,
Mhm.
so to speak. And I thought to myself, how do I take those skills and lend them to causes that need them?
Mhm.
And so, in addition to giving to people, there's two organizations that I sit on the board of, and one of them is my kids' independent school.
Mm.
And so, while I'm on that board and I'm assigned to the fundraising subcommittee, I thought nobody wants a former executive coming in and sounding like they know what they're talking about. So, what I actually did was I enrolled in professional education classes at NYU to sort of learn the art and science of fundraising.
Mm.
And I'm now in my second and my third class right now. so that I can be useful. So I want to like take the skills I have, meld it with something I don't know, and channel it to an organization that needs it or organizations that need it.
Mm.
So continuing education has been part of my transition plan.
I love that it's also not just like, I'm not working, but it's engaging your brain in a different way. Mary, can you speak to how you discovered Haven and how Haven has kind of fit in this transition? Because did you make this decision to get out of corporate before you found Haven? Was Haven on your radar as you were making this decision? I'm just curious how community fits in with where you are now.
Oh, I have a wonderful Haven story.
Hey!
So I'm like a Haven evangelist. And I think, and I hope Felicia knows that. So it was in the midst of the pandemic, like, and I'm talking like people not really leaving their house much,
Right.
not the latter part of it.
We're in the 2020s and
Yeah. I think it might have been the summer of, it might have been 2021 into
yeah.
2022, something like that. And while I had just built out like a really nice new office at home, I was like, I need to get out. I need to be around people. It's healthy. Also, you got to move your body. You just can't sit at a desk all day. And I forgot how I had first heard of Haven, actually. But I showed up. I met Felicia. I met her office manager at the time. And I signed up for an office. And I had a lonely little office in the back because I dealt with a lot of financial and confidential information. I had a door, but I would always go out and talk to people. Some of the people are still there. It's nice to see.
Right.
And I really do sort of joke that like Haven really saved me and helped me through the pandemic. It was like, it was nourishment. It
Right.
was like that community that you weren't getting on Zoom, and the community you weren't getting because you weren't going to the office, so to speak. So as I've went back to the office, we were 3 days a week. And as I was considering leaving corporate life, I thought to myself, you know what? Now is the time to re-engage with Haven. I don't have an office because I really can't justify it,
Right.
but I joined with a social membership. And I really hold myself accountable to leaning into the programming that Haven has. So I'll go through my calendar and I'll add things. I'll do the coffees, I'll do the walks, I'll do the drop the mic night. And so I try to be an active participant. In fact, I said to Felicia the other day when I saw her, I showed up late to a coffee. And I said, I'm really sorry I showed up late. And I said, but you know what? I was running late, but I said, like I literally thought of Felicia, and she appreciates everybody who comes. And the more, the merrier, the better the programming. So I made it.
And I love how Haven was part of your journey from corporate into your transition.
Yes.
And I hope that I find a lot of people say, why would I work at Haven? I don't have a quote unquote professional job. And I was like, I think it's for a lot of people at different ages and stages, and corporate and not corporate. And to your point, nonprofit or paid, but that community aspect is really important for a lot of people who are doing things kind of solo or at a smaller scale and don't have that massive support system.
I agree. And you know what? There's folks that I've met where we have a lot in common because we've had maybe corporate careers, or just there's a degree of we've been in the professional workforce. And so there's things you have in common with people that I might not have in common if I went to some other type of grouping.
Right.
So there are other networks I'm plugged into. This one is very unique.
I love that one. Mary, thanks for sharing your time. You referenced your LinkedIn profile. So I think I'm going to say that's the best place to find you and learn more and sort of have people connect with you there. Is there any place else?
Absolutely.
Any place else?
No.
So we should send people?
No, I think that's the best place.
Okay.
And, again, Nancy, I appreciate you reaching out. You do great work for Haven, and you really represent the best of the brand.
Oh, you make it, conversations with people like you make it easy. As well as we want to hear how you do in your classes. So keep us posted. And Love hearing your story, Mary. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Nancy.
That's another episode of the Haven Hubcast. If you like what you hear, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you're a subscriber, share it with friends.
Thanks for listening to the Haven Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders and owners are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Haven is a co-working space and virtual community located in the heart of Fairfield County, Connecticut. Haven is a hub for business owners and professionals to connect, create, and get stuff done. Find out more about the Haven community online at haven.com. That's HAYVN.com. Haven Hubcast is produced by Sound Advice Strategies.